What do you do when life just doesn't make sense? Why do we keep trusting God when everything around us is falling apart? What do you do when God is doing something in your life and you don't understand it? When Jesus knelt down to wash Peter's feet as a powerful act of humility and servanthood, Peter resisted. "No, Lord," he said, "you'll never wash my feet." But Jesus answered him in John 13 verse 7, "You do not understand now what I am doing, but later you will." That's how it often feels, isn't it? We find ourselves in a season of confusion. God is moving. Things are happening. But nothing makes sense. We can't explain it. We can't see the full picture. But friend, listen. God doesn't need your understanding before He unfolds His plan. That's when He simply says, "Trust me," even when it makes no sense. Even when the direction changes. Even when your life feels like it's going backward. Let me ask you something. If you're hitchhiking east and Jesus pulls up and offers a ride, but starts driving west, will you stay in the car? You may not know where He's taking you, but you know who's driving. And when you trust the one who is the way, you don't have to understand the destination. There will be times in your life when nothing adds up. Everything seems like it's unraveling. And yet, right in the middle of the storm, God is quietly writing the next chapter of your story. There's a verse we've heard many times, but today I want you to hear it fresh. Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight." Did you catch that? Lean not on your own understanding. That means you will not always get it. Now listen to God's words in Isaiah 55 verses 8 to 9. "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways and my thoughts than your thoughts." Let me ask you, how far is up? You can't even measure it. That's how much higher God's thoughts are than yours. Just because it doesn't make sense to you now, doesn't mean it's nonsense. Just because it hurts now, doesn't mean it won't make sense later. Not now, but maybe in eternity you'll look back and understand the purpose behind every tear, every delay, every detour. There is coming a day when God will make all things right. Don't lose your faith in the darkness. Serve Jesus with your whole heart. Trust Him with your life. And never, never ever quit. It's always too soon to quit, and never too late to start. Maybe you're in a season right now that makes absolutely no sense. God has spoken. He's called you. But you've hesitated because it doesn't line up with what you expected. Hear this. You don't have to understand. You just have to obey. There's a vital principle here. A lack of understanding is not an excuse for a lack of obedience. Some of us have missed out for far too long because we refuse to surrender control. We try to analyze everything. We want God's movements to fit our limited logic. Stop trying to make sense of God. It won't work. Instead, trust Him. Obey Him. And watch the breakthrough unfold. You've prayed. You've fasted. You've pleaded, "God, what's your plan for my life?" But the moment He opens the door for step one, you freeze, because it doesn't make sense. You want the full map before you take the first step. You want the finish line revealed before you start the race. But that's not how faith works. Faith obeys when it's uncertain. Faith moves when there's no clarity. You short-circuit the plan of God when you only obey if it's easy, short, or clearly mapped out. So what do you do when life gives you a sharp left turn out of nowhere? You trust, and you obey. That's it. Eventually, you get to the place where you stop worrying about where you're going because you're confident in who's leading you. Isaiah 55 verse 9 reminds us again, "As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways and my thoughts than your thoughts." God sees what you cannot see. He sees the end from the beginning. You see pain, but he sees purpose. You see confusion, but he sees destiny. Cry out, "God, this makes no sense." He simply replies, "I am God." That means he knows best. He sees more. He understands all. And you must surrender. Say to him, "God, I don't know what you're doing, but I trust your character." Because when you know someone's character, it calms you even when you don't understand their actions. If you trust a friend and they do something odd, you give them the benefit of the doubt. Why? Because you know who they are. How much more can you trust the God who created you? You may ask, how do I know everything will be okay? Here's the answer. Do you know God? Because if you know him, his goodness, his righteousness, his faithfulness, then you can say like Abraham did, "Shall not the judge of all the earth do right?" Yes, he will. Life isn't always fair, but God is always just. There will be seasons when two people pray for the same miracle. One receives it and the other doesn't, and that can feel deeply unfair. But God's ways are not our ways. Some things will always remain a mystery until we are with Jesus. And listen to me, that's not a weak answer. That's reality. There are moments when trying to explain the unexplainable will only make things worse. Instead, lift your hands and say, "God, I don't get it, but I trust you." Just like the psalmist, pour out your raw emotions before God. Tell him the truth. "Lord, I'm hurt. I'm angry, but I'm yours, and I will trust you." Think about it like this. Does a bird understand the one who builds its birdhouse? Does it understand the hand that places the seed in the feeder or the water in the bath? No, but it benefits from that care every single day. In the same way, we may never understand the mind of the one who feeds and clothes us, but we can rest in his care. J.B. Phillips once said, "If God were small enough to be understood, he wouldn't be big enough to be worshipped." There are just some things you must defer to God. Isaiah 55 verses 8 to 9 again. "My thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways, says the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways and my thoughts than your thoughts." And Solomon said in Ecclesiastes 8 verse 17, "No one can comprehend what goes on under the sun. Despite all their efforts to search it out, no one can discover its meaning. Even if the wise claim they know, they cannot really comprehend it." So what do you do when life doesn't make sense? You take the hand of the one who knows the way. You trust, you obey, and you rest in the arms of your Father who loves you more than you'll ever comprehend.